Well, I'm here at the IRS to talk about the income tax. Is the income tax voluntary? Has anybody heard that question? I went to a meeting many years ago, and the person there talking was telling me how the income tax was voluntary. And I didn't really believe him. But he said, Steve, maybe you should call the IRS up and ask them. I don't recommend this to you. I'm just telling you what I did. The very next day, I called the IRS up. I talked to an agent there. He said, is the income tax voluntary? And the agent said, yes, sir, it is. That surprised me. Right there, I thought he would say no. So I thought for a moment. I said, well, good. I don't want to volunteer anymore. And then the agent said something very interesting. The agent said, but sir, you have to volunteer. What do you say to that? Have to volunteer. All right. Well, I hung up the phone at that point. But you got to look up some definitions. Maybe voluntary means mandatory. So I look up Funk and Wagnall's voluntary, proceeding from the will of one's own free choice. Voluntary system in the same dictionary. A system of freely given support. Voluntary from a law dictionary. Unconstrained by interference, unimpelled by another's influence, spontaneous, acting of oneself, proceeding from the free and unrestrained will of the person. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that's our income tax system. People spontaneously get up and freely and unrestrained go down to the IRS on April 15th. That's ridiculous, isn't it? People are terrorized by the IRS. They do it out of fear. Now, I did mention a law dictionary. A law dictionary is different from Webster's and the others in that it is used by the courts, and there are court cases backing up each definition. Some definitions in a law dictionary are different than in Webster's. And you can get a free Black's Law Dictionary online at thelawdictionary.org. Well, what does the IRS have to say about this? On their website, I found this: voluntary compliance. A system of compliance that relies on individual citizens to report their income freely and voluntarily. I have trouble even going through this. Calculate their tax liability correctly and file on time. Let's see where freely and voluntarily. That is ridiculous. Now, how about the Supreme Court? I have a case here, Florida versus U.S. It's a 1960 case. And here's what it said. Our tax system is based upon voluntary assessment and payment, not upon distraint. Distraint means force. Maybe the IRS has not read this case. On my website as well, and there should be a little thing up in the corner here where you can click directly to my website. There's some other free videos. There's a couple that deal with the voluntary issue. One is Senator Harry Reid, talking about how the income tax is not forced extraction. It's a funny way of saying voluntary. And there's another one where an IRS chief is being browbeat by a congressman, and he admits that and agrees with the congressman that the income tax is voluntary. So I highly encourage that. So, is the income tax voluntary? I say yes, it is, based on the information that I've looked at. I'll be doing several rants on the Internal Revenue Service in the near future, and I think you'll find those very interesting. But for now, this is Steve-Hempfling, and this is one of my rants. Well, now that you listen to my rant, I hope you'll visit my website. There you can get a lot of free information. We have a free catalog you can download or look at. It has lots of books and other articles on your constitutional rights and also dealing with income tax. There's a lot of free information there on that, showing that you're probably not liable for the tax. Might surprise you. We have attorneys, even IRS agents, showing that you're not liable for the income tax. Elected officials talking about how it's voluntary, and an IRS chief saying it's voluntary. Pretty interesting. But anyway, thanks for listening.